Coach Alexis signing in. Today, like I said earlier, we're going to be covering the posterior shoulder joint. This guy right here, or what we kind of think of the lats. So this past week, or not lats, but lats origin. So the very small tendon that starts there but spreads out into this huge muscle. I'm going to get back into that later, but last week I did 5 days of lat targeting exercises, so all different variations using a resistance band. So you can check that out on my IG feed at Danclair Fitness on Instagram. So what I wanted to do was couple that with recovery, because we all know that a good fitness and strength training program has of course the work, strength training, but also has a recovery involved for a good comprehensive program. So that's what I want to just share with you guys today, is how after say doing a week or even say 3-4 weeks of programming, how you can kind of release this muscle, because it can get very tight. Some ways that it can get tight is one, just by doing one certain movement all the time. So if your movement for say lats or back is pull-ups, you're constantly doing pull-ups, I highly recommend that you vary your movement with the straight arm pull downs. If you're always doing low rows, I know that that's a really great exercise, especially for those beginning in strength training, but you want to start kind of adding different types of workouts and variations of the lats that maybe doesn't put as much stress in the joints. So that's why just adding variation really helps with overuse with the lats in that origin head right up here. Another way to also modify, say, overuse is to make sure that you're using proper form. So not proper form, but timing. So if you're someone who's always focused on concentric movement, always doing pounding, always doing, say, deadlifts without an eccentric focus, so just dropping the weight, always say doing boxing and there's not really any really controlled movement, your joints can get, kind of, all that force is not really so much training control mobility, it's training force. And the force for your lats comes from this big guy, the big wings in the back. But where the stability comes from and where the control comes from the small origin or the tendon of the lats. So that's why when you're doing all that hard movement, yeah, you're activating your lats, but you're not activating the tendon that needs to be controlled and that saves your shoulder. If you ever had a labral tear, if you ever had an incident where you're rolling around and you felt that, most likely in your lats, then that joint was either, say, unstable or tight, or it just wasn't ready for that positioning that it was in. So that's why you maybe had a strain or a sprain or some type of injury in that area. I know, true story for me, when my son was about 9, I heard him, of course, 3 o'clock in the morning, like most of us, rolled over, picked him up. I didn't really bring him to him, so he was out here. And when I rolled back over, all I heard is that, I'm like, damn. I knew what I did wrong, I knew what happened, and it's like, what can you do? Like those incidents still happen, but you want to kind of learn from them. That's why learning from injury is always so valuable. But going back to our board, so like I said, we're going to focus on this little small area back here. Basically, you have many different stabilizers, external rotators that help strengthen and make sure that all the pressure from the lats doesn't get basically put on this small shoulder area. That's why we have so many different scapular stabilizers that are so important to strengthen and focus on. But it's also very important to focus on the recovery too, so that, because especially with the workload that some of us do, you are putting a lot of strain on the lats, especially since they what they do is they stabilize force and they transmit force from the opposite glute over to the opposite shoulder. So think about our glutes and how much work they go through. The lats opposite side is getting the same amount, especially if you have a strong back. All that force is getting transmitted across the body and core. So that's why it's important that we kind of really make sure that the lats are healthy. So going to our board, we have flossing. We're going to do some spinal flossing. We're going to do some trigger joint flossing as well. So more inside flossing, but also spinal. Getting the back moving. And then we'll do some CRs with that as well. So that's kind of without it. And then my favorite, scapular activation. This is where I'm going to go over how to activate the lats in different positioning, and also maybe some form for when you are doing lats, you are activating in good positioning, because I know some of us, basically you're lifting like a stick and not like a unbreakable stick. We're lifting like a stick that's ready to break, and we want to be an unbreakable stick. That's my metaphor for it, but I'm going to go into that later. So we're going to come over to our chair. This is a bar stool chair. This is what I'll just choose to use for the simple movement. Grabbing, say, a heavy band around yourself. We're going to have it go right where I was talking about, right that small joint area in the back, or even a little bit below it. So pushing it forward, we're going to bend the knees. And first we're going to start with cat-cow. So we're going to arch the back, pushing the butt out, breathing out, and then rounding. And as you do, feel your upper back pushing into the band, pulling your pelvis forward. And same thing. Sorry, I released my breath a little too early. Holding it in. Push. Good. Elongating the shoulders and making those hands extra energized, and you're really pulling up the joint. And then now arch your back, breathe out. A little head movement in there, raising up to the ceiling, tucking it down, pushing, breathing in. Last one. Okay. Now we're going to go into rotation. Like I said earlier, the lats connect to the opposite, contralateral glutes that are opposite side of glutes. So it's really important to get that rotation in there to work with the fibers and how they move for the back muscle. So let's back. We're going to just slightly shift. Hey guys. Elongating the side of your spine. And shift. Always reset your breathing in the middle. And now come up high, slightly activating the lats, and then come down and stretch. Pulling, pulling, pulling. Come off the hip joints, up nice and high, think about coming up on the toes, squeezing the back. And coming back. Bringing back down. Last one up. And stretch back. Another muscle that plays into the ties with the lats is the tricep brachii. So sometimes if your lats or that little joint in the back feels tight, then the triceps is going to feel tight too. Like they're always going to feel like they're contracting. Or they're going to take over the movement if you're doing, like, say, a bench press or chest press. Then it's going to feel like they're taking over the movement. It's very similar to, say, the legs, where you just want to make sure that once these are strong, that you have the legs strong, the triceps stretched, released, and also full range of motion working. So we're going to do another stretch. It's going to incorporate the triceps a little bit. Probably listen. Get to the point. So putting this on our back. wrapping it around. See how I did that? We're going to bring your hands down on the chair, fall back or step back. Hands on the chair. We're going to bring our feet width apart, sitting back. And now slightly, if you can, bend the elbows without having the band leave your back. So you don't want to bend too much and then extend. So pushing against the bend. So basically doing forward tricep dips or presses. And every single time, think about pressing down into the band, getting lower. And press. Pushing away slightly, making sure your hands are nice and energetic. Into the chair. Press, straight arms. Think about squeezing the elbows into the band. So you're getting some medial tension, some medial pressure. Last one. The medial tip is actually a really good one if you have lateral tennis elbow. So if you're having that issue on the outside, then adding stretches and exercises that you can squeeze in will help take pressure off the lateral side and will strengthen the inner. So of course the chest, all this good stuff that runs down, think about squeezing in. That's just a little cue for any lateral tennis elbow issues. So you did spinal. Now we're going to focus on the joint. Bringing this red band, so I'm using a small glute band that you normally use for, say, legs or glute workout. We're going to have it going over the arm to the back. Okay. So what we know about first is that we want to first just do some rotations. So what I'm doing pretty much is it's called flossing. You're putting pressure on the joint. So if you go back, you're going to feel tension from it. It's very similar to, like, say, K-tape as support. And so if you go back, it's going to put pressure. So it's not going to allow you to go too far back. It's very similar to the band where it's going to put pressure on the joint. And as you stretch, it's going to basically help expand it and ease tension. I use this a lot. So the next seminar or live that I do that's similar to this, you'll be seeing this same technique. So, pulling forward, having some tension. We want to first do some shoulder rotations or shoulder and chop release. And as you do it, what do you feel? You'd be surprised what happens when this little guy back here gets tight. Everything else gets tight because what's happening is that all that force that's being transmitted through the body gets stopped. And it gets stopped right in this little joint. And so now your cervical muscles and all the muscles that's supposed to be, being transmitted as well, they're not really working. And so what's going to happen is now they're going to be spastic, they're going to feel tight, probably maybe they're unstable and not actually tight, but they're not getting any work. And muscles like to get work done. So that's why it's important to really open up the kinetic chain and allowing the force to come through so that the muscles get the work that they need. And now we're going to go forward. So you might feel some just really opening up. I'm going to push back into the band as you go backward or as you feel the pressure behind you. Excellent. Okay, so what we also know about, say, the last is that they're activating retraction, pulling back. So to do that, we're going to focus on retraction and protraction. You can use a wall for a closed kinetic chain reaction, which is powerful, very powerful, or you can use the air. I'm going to use the wall so you guys can see what I mean. Okay. So you're here, retract, protract. Push into the band, now release. Push in, see how far you can go, and down, and release. As no rows, anything forward to back, we're gonna have the lats kind of working that way. So we're gonna go forward slightly, and go back, push. Forward slightly, back side, forward, side. Good. And we're going to rotate the thumb medially, because when it's medial, it's internal rotation. So that means that you are working the back even more. Even though you're taking out the stabilizers when you do that. So really, neutral or thumbs out is the better positioning because you get the stabilizers in more. Now, this feels really good. Forward, stretch, 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 stretch. Good, and keep trying to raise up, press. This is more about mobility than actual flexibility because this requires really a lot of control. 2 and 1. So now, of course, you have to do all of that on this arm, if I can remember. Starting with the rows, starting with forward back, starting again, switching to anterior posterior, so forward back again. Then coming here for forward up, forward shoulder raises to slight extension back. So we'll go over it again. Pulling it across your body, over the shoulder, and I'll just do it really quickly. So again, you want to feel the back of your shoulder, the back muscles pressing into the band. And now, going backwards. And this is a great way to warm up before back workout, as well as just individual recovery day. This is a great way to kind of really loosen the muscles so that when you are strength training, it can be in proper position. Because strength training a joint in poor position is a nightmare. You will end up doing a lot more work trying to recover that. So it's better just to put your muscles in the proper positioning as you're strength training so you can get the full effect of your session. Contraction. So. Forward. A lot of you guys do work out in the mornings. I am impressed. I get it. I mean, I feel like it would be incredible because if you wake up and there's nothing on your mind, like nothing happened to just fuck up your day or screw up your day. You know, there's no asshole Alex in the office. Yeah, it's just you and your workout. So I could definitely see why that would be beneficial and even, you know, just a great boost of confidence before you start your day. I would say I'm probably more of a mid-morning, I guess first thing in the morning type person too, just not early. Just not making a point of waking up early, but waking up first thing. But then when I do like say Pilates or more recovery type workouts, I definitely like to do them at night with a glass of wine, candles on. So I'm a little fitness romantic. So yeah, so I mean, they're both purposeful. Definitely both have a place. So, that felt great. Now we're just going to do the forward raise and back. And we'll go into activation last. So bending down, forward raise, press, extend, squeeze. Forward raise, press, extend, squeeze. Breathe out. Okay, so that was our release So we're basically at 2, and that's the point we're at. Hello. Hello, so we're finishing up. We're going to step 3. We're focusing on scapular activation. So going back to my metaphor earlier, I compared a stick that is unbreakable to a stick that is breakable. And I'll be happy to show the difference. So a stick that is breakable, straight arm. Okay, so stepping back, our shoulders flex and they can go all the way to 165. So if you think this is straight up 180, 165 is about here. And that's when you're strong. But that's where their range of motion. So if you go to that range of motion as a breakable stick and you're straight, some kid comes step on you, all of this is going to get broken because you're not strong. You're out 165. You're super straight. You're at the weakest point of what a stick, how strong a stick is, and so you're easily to be broken. But we know that we do a lot of exercises in this position: lat pull down, lat pull ups, other body work, headstands, so other body work positioning where you are in 165 and even some at 180. Don't ask me. But to get to that 165 and be strong, what we want to do is we want to turn ourselves to do an unbreakable stick. So starting at the wrist, you want to make an angle all the way down your body. So almost think like a spinal articulation. So you want to make a stick, brace, brace, go across the body, brace, 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 boom. Your core is super strong. I can bet you $200 that your glutes right now are tight, there's tension, and you are ready for a lift off. You're ready for whatever you're about to do. Unless you're sitting, then I guess your glutes probably aren't that. Well, there'll be a little bit of posterior tilt, but they're not like super tight like mine is right now. Keeping the unbreakable stick. Okay, and now we're going to come over to the wall. Hope you can see me. Unbreakable stick. You have this angle in view. Okay? From here, I want you to do different slides. You're going to slide down. Keep your unbreakable stick. Slide up. Slide down. Slide up. Down. Up. Okay, you ready? So you're going to pull. This is the pulling part. And then you're going to relax. Relax, activated, relax. The whole time you are keeping that stick motion. Same thing going side, wide, in, wide, in. Slide out, in, slide out. And make sure you're keeping that stick. Right now, you should also be feeling your obliques working slightly as you go out and in. Next side. Breakable stick is still staying. Out. Squeeze. Out. Squeeze. And still going into range of motion. Now you can add some bending and push. Bending the whole time you are in the breakable stick positioning. Stick, bend, stick, bend, and stick. You never want to lose that stick. Once you feel like you lost the stick, then I would end the set. Anytime you feel like you're losing form, end it, start over. That's my little coach tip. So that was a little bit of a scapular activation. Very simple. You can do it anywhere. If you like the walls of your gym, you can do that there. If you want to do it at home, you can do it there. But this will quickly activate your lats and put them in a good positioning. Especially after you've done all this good recovery stuff. So this is Coach Alexis.